cute when you hear people say, oh, I have a $5 million company. And then you find out that $4.5 million of that is ad spend, which it wouldn't be, because a company that size would not be trusted without much advertising spend. I don't want to blow up my family. I don't want to do something that's out of alignment with my values. If we create this much growth, then we're going to be putting strains on our current clients. These new clients are not going to have a good experience. So all of these things, they're very reasonable objections, I should say.
Yeah.
But the thing is, each one of those, they don't necessarily have to be true.
All right. Welcome, agency owners and entrepreneurs, to another episode of How to Scale an Agency. I'm your host, AJ Cassata. If you're listening on the podcast, I appreciate you. If you're listening on the Facebook group live, appreciate you joining live, and you can type any questions in the comments below if we have time. And I'm definitely especially excited for today's episode. We're joined by a really special guest, my friend, Mandi Ellefson. And if you don't even know Mandi, she's the founder of Hands Off CEO, a really awesome consulting practice that she'll tell you all about, where she helps consulting businesses and agencies scale, position themselves for exit, and more importantly, do it in a more sustainable way where they get free time back. And she also just wrote a book, The Hands Off CEO, which I'm really excited about. Congrats on that, Mandi, and welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, AJ. It's lovely to be here.
It's lovely to have you. I'm really excited for what we're going to go into today. So for everyone listening, the theme for today's episode is the stages of growth from $0 to $10 million. And this is something that Mandi's experienced like firsthand, really in the trenches, from working with hundreds and hundreds of different clients. And I'm really excited because I think this is such an important topic to look at, how to think about your business at different stages. Because a lot of times I think we live in this world of YouTube shorts and blogs and tweets where you just hear a piece of business advice and you're like, oh, I should go do that thing. But really, maybe that person that said that piece of advice is at 10 million a year, and you shouldn't do that if you're at 1 million a year. So I think it's confusing to know what to do, what to focus on. So we're going to try to break that down, and Mandi's going to share tons and tons of experience. But before we get into it, Mandi, you want to introduce yourself for anyone who doesn't really know about you?
Sure, AJ, and I totally agree with what you were just sharing about how important it is to take the right action at the right time in the growth stage of your company. As you mentioned, my company is Hands Off CEO, and we help consulting agencies. So those for creating done-for-you offers that create really big outcomes. We help them be able to scale those companies by helping the CEO free up 10 extra hours per week to focus on growth, triple their fees, and unlock millions of dollars of profitable growth. So that's in a nutshell what we do. And we've been doing it for about 11 years now, agency before that. And yeah, I'm excited for the show here. Pepper me with your questions.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, before we get into the meat of the topic, I think it'd be cool for the viewers to know just like, how did you get into this? So you've been an entrepreneur, been consulting for 11 years, or at least had this specific business for 11 years. Mm-hmm. I believe from our last conversation, you didn't start out as an entrepreneur. You didn't really go to business school. Like, how did the journey start?
No, I was going to be a geologist, actually. I was going to be a geologist. An art teacher was one of the things I had considered, and got into business from being a manager in a company. And I really whipped this company into shape. I was able to make it so it would run without me. And I was able to leave for big chunks of time and be able to make record profits for the owners, and both in reducing costs, increasing rents, because it was a real estate company, and also reducing the turnover and pre-leasing. So I was able to fix a lot of operational problems with the right sales and marketing, with the right offer. So those are some things that I learned pretty early on when I was in college. And that catapulted me into a small agency where I did web design and branding. And I was starting to scale this company, or attempting to get beyond myself. I was pregnant with my second daughter. I actually talk about this story in the book in a little bit more detail, but I really struggled to be able to remove myself from this. And what I had tried to make work, I had tried to make what I had seen work in the last company that as a manager work in the company, it just didn't. It didn't have the same applicability to it, because the higher ticket services, there was so much that required me to do and to be able to find the talent. One of the biggest challenges that I found was that nobody would be doing the work at the same level as I needed it done. And I didn't quite have the cash flow to be able to pay for the next level people. And even if I did, I had paid some of those people and I still didn't get that much better results. So I really found myself in this place where my business had just eaten me alive. And it actually had caused such physical issues. My body was actually shutting down just weeks before I was giving birth to my second daughter. And it was just such an unsustainable place. I was really passionate about the work that I did. And I really enjoyed helping companies be able to grow, but it was not workable at a time where my husband and I really could have used the income with I had a 4-year-old daughter, another baby coming along the way, and he was in a graduate medical program. We could have used the income, but I temporarily shut down the business as I was figuring out what to do next with this. And this got me into this journey of testing and trying to understand what was it that actually was stopping me from being able to get results. So I started helping other people be able to solve this problem just because I knew I was really pretty good at problem solving. And if I could figure out how to make that work for another company, I could understand the principles about what made it work and under what conditions. As I started doing that, more people asked me for help doing that. I accidentally started a consulting company. And meanwhile, the branding and web design company, I sold it off to one of the staff members, and it wasn't some huge exit. It's something glamorous, but I was able to take something that was an asset that really wasn't worth a whole lot, but then make it be something that was highly valuable to someone else. And she's still running it today, actually. Yeah, it is a really big win to be able to see how you can really bless other people's lives when you can take what you've built and make it useful for other people. So anyway, that was the rest is history. It's been about 12 years since that time, and actually over 12 years, but that's how I got started doing it. So the testing, the mindset around the creativity of testing, and then the scientific methodology, both those from my background come into how we've developed our proven systems over the years at Hands Off CEO.
Yeah, definitely. I know I'm excited to get to that as well, how you're applying the scientific methodology, especially since you've come from that background. And I always find that people that didn't really start out in like business school or start out wanting to know they want to run a business, that, like whatever they were doing before that, the skills, like the personality traits kind of transfer, which I think is really interesting. But that's an amazing story. And I think, yeah, just the fact that you had that struggle, you had that problem. I always find that the best consultants, some of the best product services, they come from where the founder had the problem themselves and they solved it for other people because they really understand what it's like to struggle with that.
And I have understood what it's like at multiple levels because that was at a specific level. But then as this company has grown, I've had to deal with these same things at the same time as helping our clients scale. And I'm not immune from these same challenges. This book, Hands Off CEO, took me over 5 years to write. And as I was writing it, I was dealing with some of these challenges. But I felt like I've had people share with me that they're like, as I'm reading this was such an emotional experience. Did you mean that? I'm like, no, I just was in it so much that I think that it comes through in a very authentic way for people who have experienced that or are currently experiencing it.
Yeah, I can imagine even when you were mentioning some of the problems that you faced in the beginning, I'm sure a lot of viewers felt emotional, or I did, when you're saying don't have the cash to pay the team, overwhelmed with work. I'm imagining how many people right now are like, oh, that hurts. That's what I'm dealing with right now. Because they're all problems we all face. But I think go ahead.
No, and so what I was going to say is that the real issue of being able to remove the CEO out of the day-to-day in the business, most people think that's an operations issue, but it's not. It's the cash flow issue, and the cash flow issue is from your marketing and your sales, especially your sales, because if you have your offer positioned in the right way, and if it is the foundations of it will allow you to be able to generate the cash flow and profit, you'll have a sustainable company. Most operations problems are actually indications of an unsustainable model, which are sales and marketing problems.
Because the sales and marketing brings in the cash flow, which allows you to hire people for operations or work with consultants or implement new tools along those lines.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting perspective. And I'm really excited to dive deep into that because I do see a lot of people that are on LinkedIn, like operations consultants, or, hey, we'll free up your time. But I think, and I'm sure a lot of them are great, but I think it's always the same thing. It's always, you got to fix your operations. And you're saying it's not really operations. It might seem like operations, but it's really rooted in marketing, sales, business model, cash flow. So I think that's very interesting.
And there's definitely a use for support with productivity, support with putting together systems, and all of those things. And those individually, though, are tactics, and they're also commodities, and they're going to attain a certain amount of income for an offer. And it doesn't actually solve the bigger picture perspective. When you solve a bigger picture perspective, you actually are able to generate much more value to your clients because you're actually able to overcome all of the potential breakdowns that happen, for example, with scaling.
Right. And solve things at the root cause. Yeah, those things can help. Putting better systems in place, adopting new tools, project management. I know there's a lot of project management consultants that can help, but it's almost putting a Band-Aid over the real thing.
Exactly.
I'm definitely excited to dive into that. And I also, when you mentioned that you were writing the book while facing some of those challenges, I thought that was interesting because it's like you're almost documenting what you were going through, which probably made it really like transfer that emotion and some of that experience like through the book. Right?
I think that's fair to say. Yeah. But it's been an up and down because I guess I actually spent more than 5 years writing it. And I wrote it several times because there were at different iterations that what would happen is that I wrote it for a certain audience at an earlier level. And as we are continuing to up level the kind of clients that we're working with, because we're working with mostly 7-figure clients, some in the 8 figures, some in the multiple 6, if they really have a big vision and they have good outcomes already. But so it was written to a different audience. And part of this changed too, as our company continued to grow, as we were overcoming and working through these different growth stages and continuing to be working through the growth stages.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. As you were explaining your story, it also made me think of David Jennings. He wrote a book called Systemology, if that rings a bell. You've heard of it?
I've heard of it.
Yeah, we had him on the podcast years ago. He's actually one of our first episodes. And he has the same exact story, not same exact story, but a similar story where he had an agency actually also doing web design. And when he was having a baby, that's when he realized this isn't going to work without me. And then literally like the same exact thing. I got to send you the episode or send you the book because it's like, yeah, there's so many common things, but it makes me think about whether it's having a kid or something else. Sometimes when we have these life events, like I had a small one last year, I got sick for 2 weeks and I was like, yeah, it just sucks that I have to like my business has to suffer because I'm sick for 2 weeks. What if it could just run perfectly while I'm not sick for 2 weeks? Why do I have to be thinking? Why do I have to be thinking about that while I'm laying in bed? That kind of thing.
And you know what? And these are gifts. Those types of experiences are gifts because it helps us really refine what it is that we really want by giving us the contrast. And we saw a lot of growth around COVID actually in our business because these kind of things were showing up all over the place for our clients. COVID that can knock you out for 3 weeks. So even just under the most ideal circumstances, it runs through your team. That's a pretty hard situation to be in. And there's all sorts of other implications that go with that as well. But there can be these life catalysts that happen that can really be this gift to help us create a faster transformation. And those are actually the clients that we see that will generate the fastest transformations in their company. It's because they want it really bad.
There's a why, there's some life event that triggered it, right?
And if they don't have that big life event, we also work to help them refine that to create that same kind of drive that otherwise would be created in a really stressful situation.
Yeah, gotcha. I think that's great. I think that's really what everyone listening should take a proactive approach to this. Because a lot of times in life, we wait till we get punched in the face or something like some kind of stressful situation causes us to have to rethink and readjust, which can be useful. And I love that positive view on that, right? That you have there of like how that actually is a gift. And it is, I totally agree. But also if we can be in the proactive zone, that's even better and solve these things so that when something happens, have a baby, go on a vacation, honeymoon, get sick.
Well, and that kind of comes down to this concept around, are you going to something or moving away from it? And comes down to the importance of visioning and the importance of being really clear about where you want to go and continuing to challenge that and be surrounding yourself with people who will also challenge that and including your team. I actually had talked about with our team, we had specific numbers on our growth goals. And I'm like, I don't think that this is possible because of these types of things. And let's be realistic. And they're like, no, you guys, we can totally do this. We just need to do this and this. I'm like, oh, okay. They both pushed my managers and leaders pushed against my thinking on that. And as a result, we're going to generate more growth. And they helped me shift something in my mindset and helped me see that how much more we could do and how many more people we can help if I just get out of my own way.
Yeah, that's amazing that how your team is lifting you up. Because usually when you hear about those stories of someone being like, we can't do this, and the other person, no, we can. It's usually the other way around. It's usually the leader or the boss is like trying to convince the team, no, we can do this. It's possible. But if your team's at that level and they're pushing you better, that's pretty special.
And I'm going to also say that we have a really fantastic team. And part of the reason why they're really fantastic is that I invest time in developing them. And the same things that we're working with our clients on, we're working with our team on too, and our leaders as well. Because what's really beautiful is when you're training your team to think abundantly and to think limitless. And then they go and flip it on you. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, they're like, you said this, right?
Right.
But that's cool because then it forces you to still maintain and because we all need those reminders, right? We can all learn something once, like a mindset or a principle. But then, of course, we always need those kind of reminders to keep doing that, right? Or keep thinking that way.
And here's the thing is that it comes from the limitations that we put on ourselves are usually coming from a place of good intentions. I don't want to blow up my family. I don't want to do something that's out of alignment with my values. If we create this much growth, then we're going to be putting strains on our current clients. These new clients are not going to have a good experience. So all of these things, they're very reasonable objections, I should say.
Yeah.
But the thing is, each one of those, they don't necessarily have to be true. They may be true actually, though, with the current way that you're running things. And that's why we have to really look at, are we creating from the past way we've done things that have gotten us up to this point right now? Or are we open to new ways of creating that are not constrained by the limitations of the past?
That's really interesting. So yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So where those past limitations are no longer in the space, is it true that I'm going to blow up my family if I grow, if we triple the company? Yes. If I'm acting in this particular way, if I'm doing this and just triple the input activities that I'm doing, but there may be another way. And if you get fixated on the how, which you don't know, because if you knew how, you would already have it.
Yeah.
You don't know how. You have to take the leap of faith to create that. And then the way forward will actually appear. So I know we've talked a lot about mindset. We can go more into the tactical things too, if you want, but the mindset is really important. If I just want to say one more thing too, is that whenever we're creating change, there is a system aspect of it. And then there's a mindset. Sometimes taking action on the system will create the mindset shift. But there usually is these two aspects that are playing. You really have to take into consideration, what is the thinking behind what's running this pattern? And the thinking also, we're in our own bubble. We can't see ourselves. We have a number of exercises that we take our clients through to help them bust through these ways that they're thinking, because the thinking generates the results that they're having. But anyway, whenever there's a growth plateau, we can look at it's the team, it's the offer, it's I don't have enough time, we don't have enough cash, all of these things, and they all look like external things. And the reality is that there's a lot of proof for them being external things. And I'm not saying that they're necessarily not, because they are, right? But at the same time, you're creating those external things. So it actually starts on the inside. So there's a mindset and a system that goes with any change. And if you just change the system, you will create another plateau. And you may also be creating other undesirable things that come along with it, because you're still running the mindset pattern. So what that might look like is that, yes, we've created more growth, but now I'm actually working more hours, which I see all the time.
Yeah, definitely. That's when you said that it starts internal and then it manifests external. I'm such a believer in that. And I love that you said that, because you're right. They are external problems, but they were created by us. That's what I'm hearing you say. When they were created by us, and whatever we create, whatever actions we take, it's a result of our thoughts and our beliefs and everything underneath that.
Exactly.
Yeah, and like you were saying, it's hard when you're in your own bubble. So that's why exercises or consulting with other people, team members can help you break out of that and start to see those patterns, right? Yeah, cool. Well, I think we should definitely touch more on the mindset stuff as we go along. It's funny, every time we do one of these interviews, there's always a tactic in mind, which we are going to get to. We're going to get into the stages of growth, but it's almost impossible to not talk about mindset. If I don't bring it up, the guest brings it up. It's so important,
You can't create a new result in the same way that you're thinking. It created a different one. I mean, you can't move past the same result that you're creating with the same kind of thinking.
Yeah. So before we move on, what would be an example of that? Or even maybe even a quick, if there's an exercise that you find helpful. So for example, I know that I need to change my thinking if I want to change my results, and I have to have different perspectives, but how do I do that? How do I know? Is it a matter of reflecting more, taking a day off to think, talking to someone, bouncing ideas?
It's more than we can talk about in an interview like this. And if I go and rattle off some exercise, then it's going to be out of context, and there won't be enough description to actually be useful. And this is work that we do at our hands-off CEO leadership retreats. And we do a little bit of tactical and there, but more than anything, we're doing leadership, but from a transformational leadership, where we're developing awareness around how we're showing up. And I can recommend a few books on this, but books will give you insight, but it's really the hands-on experiences that in a matter of a few days that you can completely transform how you're showing up, who you are as a leader, which gives you access to new actions that you didn't have before. You didn't have access to that. Just for example, I'll give you an example. All right. I used to be a really critical leader. I didn't see myself as critical. The way my worldview is that I have the mind of an engineer that just, I can see everything. I can see everything, the big picture. And I'm also dyslexic. So I think in pictures and I can see the interconnections between everything. And one of the downsides of that is that I've looked at it and said, well, you know what, you need to be doing this, you need to be doing this. And on the surface, it looks like, well, of course you need to be giving direction to people, but I was giving direction to people that sometimes was empowering, but it was not actually, it was not being effective because people felt like they were being criticized.
Yeah.
So the shift for me was moving away from being critical. And especially as a CEO, when you got a lot moving and you're just sending out criticisms left and right, I did not see them as criticisms, by the way. I had to really shift the way that I saw. And it really took some personal development for me to be able to see really what I was doing to people around me my whole life. And how I was not, and it was really deep. This was a really deep transformation that had to happen through experiences that I had, through some mentorship and helping me be able to see myself when I couldn't. Even times when I was like, really, there were some times that things were pretty challenging, that were maybe some more personal things. And I remember coming to a mentor and saying, these are some of the things that are happening. And I remember actually even crying at the same time. And she just, you're making it so significant. I was like, where's the sympathy here? And there was like none of it. It was like, you're the way that you're creating this. And my point of this is that I had access because I could start seeing myself in a new way I'd never seen myself. And when I did that, I was able to see how instead of being critical with people, I could create with them. And one of the biggest insights that I found from that too is that if I have people in my life, I'm going to specifically say in my business, that I can't create a new possibility with. If I cannot create with them, they don't belong in the business. So if I feel like I have to be critical, it may be an indication that they don't belong there.
Yeah, that's all really, really powerful. I think it's another example of how the problem that shows up, such as, oh, this employee keeps messing up this thing, or I think they keep messing up this thing, is actually the root of a different problem. If I have to keep criticizing them, that this person, I should have hired them in the first place. So how one problem shows up, but really it's over here.
But I didn't see myself as being critical of them at all, though. I just saw myself as being a realist and just pointing out where the gaps were. But it's vastly different when you're creating with your team. And what I have seen is that, first of all, the access to the level of people that have been excited to be at my company has gone up to a whole new level. The other thing I've seen is that their capabilities, the peak, there's really no peak. I don't see any place where they're going to peak. They have so much opportunity for growth. And I look at the leaders that I have in my team right now and seeing how quickly they're growing, how there's no end in sight, and how these are leaders that we could quadruple the size of the company and they will be able to grow with the company. That does not come from a place of criticizing. You have to create with them. You have to help them be able to see how they can continue to grow in your company with you. And you cannot retain people like that. I can't retain a team like that by criticizing them. I can't extract the best value from them. Extract may be the wrong word. Maybe it's the right word though, because they want to extract the best value too.
Yeah, otherwise it's the Mandi show, right? It's just Mandi says what's right or wrong. Yeah,
exactly. It's embarrassing that you say this, but like it's in a cycle that keeps going and we keep growing and everything. But anyway, enough about me. The tool though is one of the tools that I will just share is journaling and having the awareness and thinking maybe contributing to the actions that you have. One great book that I really love is The Big Leap from Gay Hendricks. I really like that one. Secrets of Natural Success by William Whitecloud is also a really good one. There's a whole chapter on unconscious beliefs that I really like on there. So those are a couple that can help you shift your mindset, but more than anything, being able to have feedback from a network of people that have similar goals and that are going to hold you to a new standard, and mentors that will guide you to be able to think bigger, to be able to see things that you can't already. That for me has been some of the biggest things that have helped and actual transformational experiences.
I can relate to a lot of that as well.
And because
Awesome.
that's helped me, that's why we've created a hands-off CEO, because based on testing, that's what we find works.
Yeah, for sure. Now, like you said, it's hard. You're in your own bubble, right? So sometimes you need those people around you to challenge you, get you to think bigger, mentors, whatever, team members, whatever it is. But awesome. No, I'm excited to go into the stages of growth. And I think this was a great intro because now, yeah, the tactics are important, but really what I always love when a guest comes on as experienced as yourself is like, how does this person think? What are their guiding principles? So I love getting, some of that before we get into the juicy tactical step-by-step parts. But yeah, so we're going to talk about the stages from 0 to 10 million. How do you break up the stages? Do you think about it in like revenue levels, or like what are the stages that you see from 0 to 10 million?
Well, I think we can break it down generally into some revenue levels based on some general characteristics that we see in business. Now, these are going to go up and down based upon the offer size, like how big the offer size is and other factors. But the offer size more than anything else is going to make the biggest difference. And also, we're talking about gross sales too. This doesn't necessarily mean profit, right?
Yeah, big difference.
There is quite a big difference, but it is helpful though to look at it from a gross sales perspective, specifically when we're talking about agencies right here. And I'm talking about consulting agencies, but the number could be higher if you have more pass-through income. For example, if you count ad spend as part of your gross revenue, which you shouldn't.
Yeah,
That's
right.
really just a liability and maybe better not to run through your company. Yeah. But it's cute when you hear people say, oh, I have a $5 million company. And then you find out that $4.5 million of that is ad spend, which it wouldn't be, because a company that size would not be trusted without much advertising spend. But I'm just saying, as a hyperbolic example. All right. So this comes out of chapter 5 in the book Hands Off CEO, if you want to read more on this, but I'll just basically go over some of the main ones. And this is from 0 to 10 million. There's startup. That's from 0 to 2 to about 250. About some of these may change a little bit with inflation too. I don't know how much they will change, because what more than anything, I'm actually seeing that as inflation goes up, the income numbers don't get up. They're just getting eroded away. The profits are being eroded away even more. Unfortunately, it doesn't have to be that way, but the pit of death, 250 to 500 about. The mid 6-figure stall is 500 to $1 million. And the 7-figure slump between 1 and 3 million. There can be a couple stages within that one too. And between 3 and 5, I'm still driving everything. We have all these managers, we've had all these team, I'm still driving everything. And that one can be a little bit tricky as well, because sometimes at that size, they can just be having much bigger contracts, but still running into a lot of the same problems at the 7-figure slump. And then 5 to 10 million plus is growing your legacy. So we're just dealing with these stages, and especially a lot we'll deal with between 0 and 5, because you overcome all the issues by 5 million. Getting from 5 to 10 million really is just replication.
Interesting.
Replication and mindset. All right, I'll go over some of these quickly then. The startup 0 to 250, 0 to 100 really is the hardest. It's awful. Hopefully you can get through that very quickly if you've had a lot of experience in other, maybe you have a lot of contacts and you're able to get up to speed pretty quickly. But you really, in the earlier stages, under $500,000, there's a lot of distraction. There's a lot of shiny objects. There's a lot of looking for information everywhere else except for yourself. And there is definitely time for good mentorship. Unfortunately, at that level, what goes on is that they're investing in mentorship that's very low level, because that's all they can afford. You can get yourself into a trap. So I would be looking at having one of the biggest things in that earlier stage too, under $500,000, is that everything is so hard. Everything is driven by you. It's nothing happens without you being in there. And then as you add more team members, then what happens is that you just have more and more workload and more people to manage. And you think that your mind is playing tricks on you, saying, if I grow more, then I'm actually going to be like, if I double the company, I'm going to double our team. I'm going to double our headaches. I'm going to double all of this. And that's just really the biggest problem, more than anything. Getting to $1 million is the head trash. And squirreling around looking for the easy button. It's like here's the easy button. Here's the easy button. And this is applicable for every one of these stages. It's actually not easy. but it's going to be the fast button. Let's just say the faster, more. And I don't want to create unrealistic expectations, but you can create very fast transformations when even at earlier multiple six-figure stages. We wouldn't even touch a company under multiple six figures. Every now and then we have someone come in who's under $500,000, who has a really big vision. They have amazing results for their clients. And we know that we just a couple little tweaks and they're going to pop right up. And I'll just give you an example of Kirsten. And that was something that she did that recently where she came in, had a higher income, had dropped in from a number of economic things that were going on in the industry, and getting an irresistible offer in place. We can talk about the irresistible offer, the irresistible offer goes for one really painful problem, one specific client type, not industry, but client type, and one outcome. And one, not, we're going to give you peace of mind. That's not an outcome. Like, how are you going to tangibly impact this business? And when she had that, she was able to, it was well over 4 to 6 times increase in her fees. And she was able to more than double her income in a matter of just a couple months. A really big impact in having the right offer in place, but it took something for her because she really had to invest ahead. Almost all of our clients do have to invest ahead. And even if they don't have to invest ahead, they're pulling out of cash reserves in their business, which is that's like a comfortable place. So you have to go into a place of discomfort to be able to get to the next level. So one thing I would advise is anyone looking at investing ahead in the next level, first of all, get in the mindset of investing ahead. But second of all, get really clear on what the outcome is that you're actually looking to create. And then go look for a mentor, a program, whatever it is that is going to be able to help you elevate that vision and that has a good track record of being able to do that and understands why it's going to work, under what conditions, so that you can actually have a high amount of predictability that's going to work for you. But more than anything, you have to make it work for yourself. It's your responsibility to go all in and make it work for yourself. But anyway, the irresistible offer is one of the biggest things that will help you be able to get to the $1 million mark a lot faster. Anyway, we started on the startup. That the irresistible offer applies all the way across the board. We've done this with multiple 8-figure companies who hit profit slumps where they were at a certain income level and the income level stayed stagnant for 4 years. It's very common. We see another stage in the early 7 figures that there's a stagnation between when a company hits about $1 million, specifically a service-based company, where at $1 million, they may dip down to 800 and go between that and 1.3. It could be a little higher than that if your contract sizes are larger. And what's going on at that point in that stagnation, if I'm jumping ahead here to the 7-figure slump, is that they don't have a management layer in place. They need to have a management layer. And that's challenging because it's not only do you have to get the structure of that right, you have to get the hire right, you have to get what are they going to actually do? You have to get your head straight too, because you may have tried this in the past and it didn't work. Doing all of that, setting all of that, how do you let go safely at the same time of that? It's a challenging problem, right? And that's primarily one of the main problems that we solve, actually, by the way, in our business at this stage of our growth. All right. So I jumped ahead to the 7-figure slump.
Yeah, that's okay.
I'm going to go back now, and I'm going to talk about the pit of death between 250 and 500 very briefly.
I love the names for all this, by the way. That makes it fun. They basically sound less depressing as you go up. First it's pit of death, then it's 6-figure stall, then it's slump, and then it's 3 months. So they get like less and less painful.
Yeah, and that's exactly what happens too. You have more resources as you grow to throw money at problems to help solve them, right?
Right. Yeah.
But everywhere you go, there you are. Anyway, the pit of death. This is where you're at a point where to be able to get back, to be able to get past this, like you're starting to invest past yourself. And because a solo business gets to about 250, no more than that, unless you're charging really high price points. But anyway, there's a lot of things that are going on there. Hustling, working really hard. Your income is the highest, but your costs are also the highest. That's also happening at the 7-figure slump. Your costs are the highest, your income's the highest. So there's some of these stages where the profit actually declines. And then it declines before you're actually and stalls at a certain level. And the typical time that we see people stall at is 3 years. I'm saying sometimes they come to us earlier than that, but a company will oftentimes stall 3 to 4 years. And I say stall because that's based upon their assessment that they want to grow larger. There's many companies that will stall at a certain level. I was talking with one recently who had been at that level for 30 years and was pretty content at that. But you can't be able to exit that company and sell that company and to be able to really have a lucrative exit if you're the one stuck in the middle of all of that based on that plateau. You have to be able to put the management layer in place, and to be able to do that profitably and sustainably, he's got to generate more growth. Has to, unless he just cuts more and more back from himself, which also isn't very fun, right?
No.
I feel like I'm jumping all over the place here, AJ, but if you want a really clear linear, you can read the chapter in the book if you want.
Yeah, for sure. I think I'm the best. Definitely.
But here, the next piece is the mid six-figure stall. And that's between $500,000 and $1 million. And this is an area where we will actually work with clients who are, they're committed. They want to scale a multi-million-dollar company, and they have a great offer. The real important thing about scaling a service is that you can't just, if you want a sustainable company that doesn't just decline in profits as you scale, you have to really be looking at what is it that you're actually scaling. So if you're just trying to turn the crank and offer deliverables, then what happens is that your clients will look at that and say, I'll pay you this for the deliverables, but you're going to be the one who has to be delivering it. You have to be very involved in it. I've heard, you may hear it, we may hear the expression, our clients say that I could just tell that your eyes weren't on this. And the reason why is because they have not built up a team around them to be able to do the work. And the reason why is it's all too custom. Too many different kind of clients, too many different type of results. It's all over the place, and you can't scale that.
Yeah, impossible.
And because it's all over the place, what that means is that the majority of the business that you're getting is from referrals. And this is where I know that your big thing is, AJ, is around moving from referrals to being able to have consistent pipeline full of leads, really good quality clients. I'm sure that you're feeling like I'm preaching to the choir for you right now.
Definitely. Yeah, I love it. But it's true. It's exactly what I've noticed is this stage. It's always, because most of our clients are between, I'd say, 50K to $1 million. Like they've already got something started. But at any of that stage, it's always, I'm dealing with referrals, and it's just lots of different types of work. And now I want to actually streamline and scale and find a way to get leads without just getting referrals.
Yep. And what we found that works to be able to get past that is that you can't be selling the owner. You can't be selling, hey, whatever your problem is today, I'm just going to solve it. Basically, you tell us, we'll jump and you tell us how high. You can no longer, you can't just be that monkey that is going to do whatever your client says, because first of all, that's not leadership. That's not going to get your client consistent, predictable results if all you're doing is just whatever they tell you to do, because then that's what your team is doing as well. And then they're always going to want you to be part of it because they know that you're going to help generate better results. So the biggest thing here is really getting focused on how do we be able to get 100% of our clients being able to generate the kind of results that we generate for maybe the top 5% of our clients. So how do we be, so who is it that, and it's not just about, okay, those are the kind of clients, like we worked with a car manufacturer that got really good results with. There may not be enough car manufacturers for you to be able to generate that same outcome with. Car manufacturers is probably a terrible example if maybe it's not though. So anyway, it's being able to find that profit sweet spot client that may look like and may have some of the same variables as that the car manufacturer example, but what is that client sweet spot? And then how do we be able to charge so much more? Like, how do we be able to triple our price point? And a lot of the things that we look for with our clients is that, let's say that they have offers, they sell product-based things. They may sell smaller one-off type of services. Yeah. And then they may have these clients that are even up to $1 million clients. And maybe they have a couple six-figure ones here and there. But what happens a lot of times is 60% plus of their clients are in this level where they may be generating cash flow to the business, but not a whole lot of profit. And so how do we be able to, what is the sweet spot? Is it the $1 million clients? Is it the six-figure clients? Is it the lower clients? Is it the lower clients that you're moving up to six figures? Is it the hire clients that you're offering a program that's more like on the six-figure level. Those are the things that we look at with our irresistible offer process that we walk our consulting agency clients through to be able to uncover where that is. Because once we understand that, we can get a really clear, succinct outcome. Like I'll give you one example, and this is not in the agencies. I'm going to deliberately give it so that, but we doubled job site productivity within 3 months for heavy machine manufacturers, saving millions of dollars per year, millions of dollars of profit per year, for example. So that's an example of what an outcome statement might look like if once we've uncovered who that profit sweet spot client is. So that's something that's similar to one of our clients, Jeff. That wasn't exactly his outcome statement, but he had a really bold outcome statement that was similar to that. And they went from charging hourly to having $1 million deals. They were able to first go up to 6-figure, then multiple million. And right out of the gates, we're able to help them double their profits with an increase of pricing, doubling their profits with an increase in pricing. It was actually not a huge increase in pricing the first off, but then to be able to increase your fees a lot more, you got to really restructure what you're being sold. And then from there, you can build operations around that. That's why it's so important that and we use what is called an irresistible offer. And we actually have a book summary that I can give everyone a link to, that they can actually get an example of what an irresistible offer looks like, and a scalability checklist. What are the stages to exit in what order? It's handsoffceo.com/summary, by the way, if you want to download it right now. But anyway, though, when you do that, now you have a really clear target market. Now where to go search. In Jeff's example, they had partners that were actually coming to them and saying, we want to use you exclusively, and we want to introduce you to all of our clients, because what they had was so hot and sexy, because it really saves the client a lot of money. It solves a very painful problem that no one else was solving, because everybody else was focusing on engineering and surveying. They were just looking at surveying and not actually solving the problem that came from looking at how everything fits together, looking at the real problem and solving the real problem instead of just being order takers. Design this website, increase my SEO traffic. But be real strategists.
Yeah, I really love that you're hitting on this, because I think I talk about this a lot too in the community, on the podcast, and with our clients, going from order taker to really advisor. And you used a word a few minutes ago that I really want to harp on, which is leadership. Like you said, if you're just fulfilling clients' requests, you're not leading them, right? And really, if you think about it, the client's not an expert in the problem, you are. So how do they know? It's backwards, right? If they give you requests, but they don't really know what they need, right? They don't really know what's truly going to solve it. So I think that's a huge, mindset shift. And I think that's a great foundation to creating an irresistible offer, is first realizing I have to actually solve the problem for them and lead them and tell them what they need, rather than just do this, do that.
And that's actually something that I really appreciated in watching some of the trainings that you do. I watched one of your trainings recently, and you spot on really understand a lot of things, some foundations that a lot of salespeople don't. And because when you go out into a different market, and let me reverse back and just say that a lot of sales experts don't understand the foundations of what make offers actually work and be able to scale them. They just say more leads. But unless you actually look at the core foundation of an offer and get really clear on who that profit sweet spot client is, you're not going to be successful with any marketing channel. You might get lucky here and there, but you won't actually have lasting success.
Yeah, perfectly said. Yeah, you won't have repeatable success, because you need to really understand what you're selling, who you're selling it to, and why they need it. And that's different than just hourly fees or one-off tasks or deliverables, right?
And hourly fees you can always sell, because someone will have a problem, but it's going to be a very low-level problem.
Yes.
You're going to get what you get. But I wanted to add something else too, because you went from order taker to advisor. The next level actually is partner. Because you don't want to lots of agencies are advisors. Lots of them think of themselves as strategists, and it's fine and dandy and all that. But strategy also is also a tactic. I know it's like strategy is a tactic, which is a bit of a contradiction. But the thing is that unless the strategy actually is going to be leading to a specific outcome. It is you're selling a client a tactical solution. So if you're saying, we're going to give you this plan, we're going to give you a strategic plan. Okay, great. Does this strategic plan, what is it going to do? It's going to give me clarity on what to do next. That's helpful. But what am I actually, if this strategic plan may be able to show me how to even generate more traffic to our website, for example. But is that going to actually help me be able to get to my $10 million exit, for example, like where the company that gets to a $10 million EBITDA, for example? So we need to be looking at the bigger picture for what the client actually wants to build.
Yeah, definitely. And that's how you can really, because basically what you were saying earlier is the foundations of that irresistible offer is solve a painful problem, have a powerful outcome. But if you don't really know the bigger picture of what the client wants, you don't know what a good outcome is for them, or you don't know what a painful problem is, right? Yeah, awesome. I think we'll definitely have to do a part 2 sometimes, because I'd love to dive into these later stages, but I think we would do the audience a disservice if we just skimmed over them.
Yeah, and I guess we didn't actually complete the whole thing. But yeah, let's definitely do a part 2 on that, and we can talk through the 7-figure slump, because there's a lot there. And moving on into, I'm still driving everything. Yeah, let's definitely do that again. Is it right if I share a resource with your audience then and tell them a little bit more about what they can find in it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Share that. If you guys are watching this live on Facebook, just comment below and we'll send it over. But yeah, anyone listening to the podcast, I'll link it below. And
so yeah, if you go to handsoffceo.com/resource, then not resource, excuse me, summary, handsoffceo.com/summary. You can download the summary of the book. I mentioned it already, but it's very succinct, and it has a checklist on page 10 that goes over what areas of the business to exit in what order. And that's really important. And I've even had some people who reviewed the book, read the whole book and said, I love the book, but the summary was really awesome too. Because
nice.
It got to the point so quickly. AJ, thank you so much for interviewing me here. It was really a pleasure. I appreciate being here.
Yeah, I really appreciate you coming on. This was awesome. And I'm excited for the part 2. I'll link all those resources below. And thanks so much for the time and sharing the experience with us.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure.
All right. Take care. See you soon.
Bye.
Bye.